The Zone Coverage Podcast Network.
Good evening and welcome to the Minnesota Soccer Podcast. Episode, I don't know. We haven't been counting. Doesn't matter.
It's the best one yet.
Tom's been scratching the wall back there. There's a bunch of, but I don't know if that's how many episodes of all the podcasts he's been a part of.
That would be a long list.
Yeah,
Exactly.
this is the 1,000th podcast.
Today.
1,000th podcast you've recorded in this 24-hour period. That sounds about right.
It's been a day of talking.
Anyway, we're here. I'm David Naylor. Nic Hallett's here. Tom Schreier's here. You know, the usual crew. There was some soccer this week. We're going to talk about it, but not for very long because it was bad and it was not good. And we're going to talk a lot more about the World Cup because the World Cup does start this week, even though the United States is not in it. There are 32
it
other
starts
nations.
without the United States?
It does.
No, stop.
We
Yeah?
should get Trump on this. Trump!
Stop.
Trump, do something.
No.
They're already trying with the 2026 World Cup bid, which is its own can of worms that I don't know enough about to get into.
Yeah, we
Because
can talk about
the United States is bidding for the 2026 World Cup, and it's become an entire giant political disaster that I haven't read enough to talk intelligently.
It's worth
about.
after this World Cup. It's worth talking about. I think.
Yep.
Well, because I've been following. Basically, like, it has turned into a bit of a mess, and Trump actually has negatively affected the U.S.'s bid, which is like, are you freaking kidding me? But as of now, still, the odds are that the U.S. will win the bid. As of right now.
So if it's in like Los Angeles, it makes sense. I don't know where would they put it.
It's
all over the country. It'll be all over the country.
Yeah, all over the place.
Huh.
And actually, the cool thing, and again, a huge reason that you can kind of feel comfortable that they'll get it, is it is a joint bid with Canada and Mexico. But it's the first ever joint bid where the U.S. will be the predominant host, and Canada and Mexico are really just like assisting. And so there's like going to be, I think there's like 70 games total, and 50 will be played in the U.S., 10 in Mexico, 10 in Canada.
And like the big games, like the semifinals and finals, you would
All in
assume
the
will
US.
all be in the United States,
Yep.
and like your LA's, your New York's, your whatever.
I think Mexico and Canada.
Minnesota here.
But you would.
They would.
US
I think they're
Bank
still
Stadium?
in play. No.
I think it has to be U.S.
No,
Bank
yeah,
Stadium
it is.
for
It
World
is.
Cup play.
Yeah, it is U.S. Bank Stadium. I think it's still in play.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It feels like a long shot, though. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of that would be like, this is me totally spitballing, but you'd probably want to keep games in the group stage in the same geographic region.
Sure.
So you'd probably have a group or two in Mexico. You'd have a group in like California. You'd have a group in like the Southeast. You'd have a group in the Northeast. And just as we've talked plenty about with Minnesota's proximity to other things, you could do a Midwest-centric group.
Yeah.
And perhaps like anchor in Toronto into that. But it's just like stuff's further apart here than it is just putting a group in like New York, Boston, Philly,
For sure.
Pittsburgh.
For sure.
Like, so that's, I think, just the geography of it is part of it. It'd be cool to have one here, and it would make it more well-rounded around the country, but that's 8 years out. So let's talk Minnesota United first. They played a U.S. Open Cup game. They won. They did win. They are now moving on to a stage further in the U.S. Open Cup than they have ever been before. That is a true fact, because since they were coming in at an earlier stage before they were in MLS and lost in their first round last year. So they've moved into the round of 16. They defeated FC Cincinnati, future MLS side, 0-0. 3-1 on penalty kicks. It was 120 minutes of very bad, not good soccer. And then Bobby Shuttleworth being very good at goalie, which is why you pay him the money.
That was awesome to see. Such a fun way for like Shuttleworth to get like vindication for a lot of what he does on the field. The penalty shootout provides a unique scenario where he can kind of take the game and really steal it like he did. And so that's great to see.
Well,
and as if he wasn't confident enough already, right?
So 5 minutes into the game, I said on Twitter, I went out to New Bohemia on Lake Street in Uptown to watch the game with some people from Dark Clouds who were out there. Just thought that would be fun to do.
Nice.
Better environment to watch than sitting at home. 5 minutes into the game, first like United attempted an attacking move, and I'm like, this looks like they set up for the draw. to sit there and just let Bobby Shuttleworth win the game out in penalty kicks. Because the lineup they sent out attacking-wise, they had the starting 4 in defense. So Miller, Boxall, Kallman, and Mears starting defense. And then you have Maximiano coming off of his struggling performance in Kansas City on Sunday, and Colin Martin and Colin Warner. Colin Warner, who hadn't seen much game time at all this season and who has not been great in the game time he's seen.
He's not very good.
And then up front, you have Abu Dunladi and Christian Ramirez.
And Miguel. And was it a 4-3-3?
It was a 4-3-3. So you have Dunladi on the wing, which was what it was. He was one of the players that could have done better. Colin Warner should not play another minute for Minnesota United. I'm going to start there. He was atrocious.
Welcome to last season. That he was so bad, and he's continued to be bad. I actually could go on with another anecdote, but I don't want to just trash the guy. But
I think people catch it.
Yeah,
catch drift.
Yeah.
Like he could have been the worst player of the 22 on the pitch, including all of Cincinnati's side who are playing in the USL this year.
How good is Cincinnati compared to their league, the USL? I mean, is this like I know they're trying to get into MLS.
They are in MLS. They'll be there next year.
Yeah. So my point is this significantly better than their competition?
So they are number 1 in the USL right now, top of the table, 26 points from 13 games.
So MLS caliber players on their team.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a difference from like right now, like they're the class of the USL, and that's in part because they have great infrastructure and a well-run organization. So you could conjecture that maybe like half the team, but maybe that'd be pretty bold.
The argument that could
for example, Minnesota United was the most talented team when they were in the second division,
it was Ibarra
and they only brought up like 5 guys.
Because yeah.
So keep that in mind.
The argument that could be made for Cincinnati isn't necessarily their performance in USL, but it's the fact that in this tournament last year they went to the semifinals, beating 4 MLS teams on their way there. So last year they proved that they can play against and beat MLS teams.
Yeah, all that is to say, this result is actually,
it's a pretty good result.
Even though it's ugly, it's actually, I think it's a great result.
Yeah, like they went to an unfriendly environment. First game in that stadium after Cincinnati's entrance in the MLS was announced. So big crowd, hyped about it. Big opportunity. Tournament that Cincy had done well in last year. And to United's credit, like they did defend pretty well most of the time. Cincinnati also missed a whole lot of open shots.
What I don't get is like you in the beginning, you were like the United went into a shell kind of, and I was like, why would they? I mean, I get that Cincinnati's had success in this tournament, but it just seems funny that they're going into the shell.
They didn't put out a very good offensive lineup.
Fair.
And that part of that comes with they played a couple of good defenders. It was interesting that, from my perspective, I went into the match watching Abu Dunladi and Maximiano, because those were the 2 guys of the new entrances to the team that had the most to prove for me in 90 turned into 120 minutes on the pitch. Because Maximiano obviously came off
the yellow card,
red card, 18 minutes, but when he was on the pitch, he'd played okay. And so he just has not really gotten to turn himself into a good environment. And I will say, first half of this game, he was the most impressive player on the pitch for Minnesota, in my opinion.
That's pretty startling. I think you tweeted about that as well, and that's fascinating.
Their 2 best chances in the first half came through him. One a shot, one a pass that Dunladi didn't take a swing on and could easily have scored on if he'd gone for it. And that was interesting to see, giving him more freedom to go forward rather than playing as a defensive midfielder. Worked okay with him, which obviously doesn't look like it's going to be part of a setup normally in the United midfield, but is something in the grainy YouTube highlight videos of him. He'd shown attacking potential in previous outings, so it was interesting to see that in this outing, because really, like in the 4-3-3 setup, he was the linchpin of the United attack, which was not what I expected at all.
No.
And on the flip side, Abu Dunladi just didn't do enough. Like, he was well covered most of the game, but the shots weren't accurate. The ball control and decision making running into well-organized Cincinnati defenders weren't great. There were a lot of times where he got the ball in what looked like a pretty decent position, and whether through miscontrol or through positioning, didn't even get a shot off.
Yeah, that's
been a long-standing problem with him, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, the knock on Donati, and again, he's super young. He's coming off his rookie season. This is his sophomore season. Has been, does he have the mental capabilities needed? Because he does have the physical traits that you want and need. So that's the question, and I think that's where Heath stands with him in a lot of places, is how can I mold this guy? So he's going to be one who's going to be more apt to have that off game and really not be able to make the runs needed or be in the right positions, and it's going to hurt him. So the thing with Donati that's always a good thing to see with him in particular, Donati played 120 minutes, no problems. That's I was just going to ask you about that. That's fascinating.
Yep.
I can't believe Heath would even let him.
Yep.
So that's really interesting. So he must be feeling 100%, and the fact that he lasted all 120, that's great.
The question, the one United did come out of this game with yet another injury question. Eric Miller went off after 13 minutes.
And this is why we said, though, like, no matter what really happens, the Sam Nicholson trade was good and needed to happen because they are weak at outside back. Mm-hmm. So that's a real bummer that Miller goes down. But Tyson should be back soon.
And Manley was
Mears has been back, and Manley's proven, as we've talked about on a couple occasions on the show, he's pretty darn good for his rookie stats.
He was fine. He was another one that it looked like more decision making than anything with him, where he was in position to get a cross off and maybe took too long on the shot and got closed down and couldn't get a cross away.
Well, was he playing? What did he have to play on the left though?
Yes.
For Miller, he's a right back.
Yeah.
So not only is he a rookie, but he's having to play out of position.
Yep. So I believe that's right, and people will tell me on Twitter if I'm wrong. I don't remember.
The only other option is if Mears would have played over there,
which then he's playing out of position.
Yeah.
So you have what you have. So Maximiano was the thing that I came away from the game most impressed with, because it was a good confidence performance. He lasted until the 76th minute, until receiving a red card, and he did not come off until the 100th minute of the game. So almost doubled the number of minutes he's played this season, because he played 106 going into this game. Gets 99 minutes in this game. Keeps the red card business out of the way, gets his yellow, but gets it late when it's not going to affect his play moving forward, and really put in a really solid shift, I thought. So I was impressed with his play in this game, and it's against a weaker side, but still, it's reassuring to see.
It is, and all credit to him, and it sounds like the fitness is there to a degree if he's playing, you said 99 minutes?
99, yep.
But let's also keep in mind that's he was coming off a horrible performance. His back was against the wall. If he performs poorly in this game, what do you have?
Yeah.
So that, credit to him. But man, did he have another option? He had to play decent. But that's good to see. What stands out more to me, because I was only able to watch the highlights from your take, is that he not only did he play well, but he was at times the best player.
Yep.
That says something.
Yep. And that's I thought that the United players that had played on Sunday night looked like they'd played 72 hours earlier, most of them for a full 90 minutes. That includes Ramirez, who came off after 60 in the Kansas City game, the entire back line, and Miguel Ibarra. I didn't think Ibarra was that sharp that night, which makes sense. He's played a gazillion minutes so far this season and played 90-plus minutes in Kansas City the night before, and had to track back on defense a whole bunch in that game. So, I'm not necessarily blaming him, but he was off the pace. So
fair enough.
It's kind of what you expect when you got a 72-hour turnaround, 2 straight away games. When you run out some of the same lineup, you're going to have some tired legs out there, and when it goes a full 120 minutes, you're going to have some tired legs out there. So
absolutely, which is probably going to lead to a poorly played or poor looking game.
Yeah, and it was slow. That was the thing that showed up more, and you're going to have that in a United lineup that doesn't have Darwin Quintero in it. It's not that you don't have pace, but it was the rate at which United were choosing to move the ball. They tried to build out from the back, and keep building from the back. And if anything goes wrong at the halfway line, we're going to play it back, and we're going to reset, and we're going to try it again, and we're going to move the ball slowly through midfield to try and find something. And when the talent level of the attack isn't on the same point as it is normally, United aren't very good at building slowly from the back with their best lineup. This was their game plan pretty clearly to me, and they weren't very good at it, so it didn't result in any chances. So,
yeah.
Take that for what it was. And they held a clean sheet for 120 minutes, and the penalty taking was very good.
And this match was on the road.
Yep, and it was on the road, which we've talked about before, the impact of playing on the road, even in this setting. On short rest, with a lot of lineup that played the previous game, you're going to have that.
In Cincinnati.
In
right?
Cincinnati,
Which is considered a tough, diehard fans. Right?
Yeah.
That's why,
Yeah, they're the best attended team in the USL.
Real quick diversion, does this affect the Columbus team? Because isn't the Columbus team on kind of like rocks? In terms of financially, do you
I'm
know?
pretty certain they're like moving to Texas.
They will be
Austin or something like
Columbus
that. Yeah.
won't be out of the league. They'll just move to Austin.
Yeah.
Is my understanding.
That's what I've been hearing.
And Columbus is very unhappy about that. But
Yeah. I mean,
that's-
they had these problems pre-Cincinnati.
Yeah, that situation's a mess. Their ownership is doing things that are interesting.
Scoreboard caught fire, right? Once.
Yes, there's a lot to that situation that I have not done enough research about.
Yeah,
is what
no, I
will
just
say.
meant it briefly. Like that.
Yeah.
That the big positive is you're getting a
Mm-hmm.
diehard fan base, Cincinnati, which obviously was Reds, Bengals, but the downside is Columbus. Yeah.
Penalties, real quick. The thing I will say about the penalties: Christian Ramirez, Colin Martin, Brent Coleman were your three scoring penalty takers for United, which I thought was interesting. Don Lottie was not chosen. I don't know who would have gone fifth if it had gone to a fifth kick, but it's a setting. Did United play a game that went to penalties last year ever?
I don't believe so.
So this is something we've never seen from this side before. So it's
not from this side, no.
Not from this side. So it's interesting to get a look in at what it is. Ramirez leading is not a surprise, and you'd obviously expect your Quinteros, your Gomez's to get in there, but Colin Martin being second on the table. It was interesting, and he took a perfect penalty. It was great to see.
I mean, every professional footballer should be able to take a penalty. And
But it's interesting to see who the choices are and who wanted it, because I believe Adrian Heath had comments after the game that he kind of left it up to the players of who wanted to go in and get it. So it's good to see it. The one Minnesota United player who missed a penalty was, drum roll please, Colin Warner.
Yeah. I saw that on the highlights, and I was like, yeah, of course.
Yep. And Cincinnati, they took three good penalties and had one go off the crossbar, but Shuttleworth's two saves were he knew what he was doing, he read the play right, and tremendous saves in both of them. So that's
all credit.
That's how you win the game.
Yeah, all credit to Bobby for a great performance in that.
The word I used in my recap was lethargic, just because they were moving slow, and that in that setting, it's the last game at the end of this big push through May. One more time after getting your butts whooped in Kansas City, just to run it out there and go out and grind out a result. Didn't look pretty. Got the job done. Moving on. Their next game in the Open Cup in the round of 16 will be against Houston, at Houston, Monday the 20th. We'll do a little more looking forward at that next week on the podcast, as well as looking forward at their next MLS game, which is on Saturday the 23rd of June at Colorado.
That's a tough turnaround.
But they've got from...
It'd be interesting to see how Heath plays that.
From the game on the 9th to the game on the 20th, United do have a full 11 days off, which is going to be good for them both injury-wise and rest-wise.
For sure.
And with that said, the thing that happens between those times is the 2018 World Cup, which, if you're not aware, the United States aren't playing in.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah,
I haven't read it yet. The Ringer actually did like a huge thing on it. I don't know.
Did
you
they?
see that?
Yep.
Yeah, like they
Recently, or
I would say like 2 weeks ago, but it was one of their long forms.
was it about how the U.S. national team had a bunch of burner accounts?
Yeah. I heard. Yeah.
And I know that front of the Strip Sports section today, Megan Ryan had a piece about the U.S. national team's selection process and stuff that I haven't gotten to read yet, but I'm sure is very good. 3 straight weeks, by the way. Sunday of the sports section, soccer on the front page.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. 3 straight
Wow.
weeks, which is awesome.
3 straight weeks of what?
Soccer on the front page of the Sunday sports section.
Oh, nice.
She's gotten the cover story 3 weeks in a row on Sundays.
This is Nic Hallett's former
Colleague.
classmate. Yeah,
Yep.
colleague.
So, and was one of the people who I traveled to Kansas City with, and I've gotten to talk to a lot. She's awesome. Read the strip.
She recommended Nick to us, and we have struggled since.
So let's dig into the World Cup a little bit. I'm just going to kind of go through group by group, and we can get whatever thoughts we have out here. Some of these, I haven't prepped this much for it. I've done a little bit of reading, but obviously we don't have the personal familiarity that we might if a United States team were in. Or,
So let me make this point one more time, though. I feel like everyone, you know how like we joke with Giles and Ben that they have the girlfriend teams, right? So it was Washington and Vegas this year. I feel like everyone, let's be honest, every diehard soccer fan in America
for sure
has a girlfriend team.
For
so
sure.
like people have, now maybe you don't follow it as close as the U.S. team, but I feel like people still have a horse in the race.
Well, it's like I have a pretty good idea what's going on with the England team, because I read news that's based in the UK, and a lot of that covers the English team. I have a pretty good idea what's going on with the French national team, because they had a, in their view, disastrous result against the United States this week, which was actually pretty interesting, because the U.S. played in France for France's last.
Is France usually good?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
For France's last build-up game to the World Cup, the U.S., with a very young side, went in there and got a 1-1 draw, which was a very good result.
Fascinating result.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And not a great one for France either. Like the team the U.S. has been running out in friendlies the last couple of weeks. I think it's one of those things like the oldest player on the squad's 25 or something ridiculous like that. Like they're trying out everybody new they can get.
That's what's crazy about this result. France is like in the top 5 favorites to win this World Cup. Top 5.
Yeah, I think I had been told that.
And everyone on their team is a starter for a top club team in Europe. Everyone.
I just think of England, Italy,
And-
Germany, like where the leagues are. But do the French players just disperse, or am I just missing it?
The French league is the 5th best league.
Okay.
But most of their best players are dispersed.
Okay.
And the crazy thing is that the U.S. is playing, like Naylor points out, is basically trying out guys. They're just trying new guys.
I heard you were even on the bench, right?
They texted me. I was unable to be there.
Yeah, I got a podcast.
Yeah, I said, Tom, you should give Schreier a look. But,
I got size. I could just take up space in front of the net.
and anyway, so that's the crazy thing of this result is they're trying out tons of young guys, tons of random guys in some ways. And wow, I mean, to draw with France in a game that they really focused on, was a tune-up to the World Cup, was in France. Stunning result. Stunning. And really well played by them. However, and I don't know how much of this game you got to see.
I didn't see much of it.
David, which is what I'll call you when we discuss World Cup things.
And frankly, his real name.
Sorry, what? I didn't even catch it then. How much did?
Not much.
Not much. Okay, so the thing about this game, though, have either of you guys recalled or watched when the U.S. was last in the World Cup and they played Belgium?
Yep.
Or Germany? And those games, though, were close, to a degree, but really the U.S. was handily outplayed. And, really, if you watch that game and you know soccer, you're like, wow, they almost don't deserve to be on the same field as these guys. And, the Belgium game is only because Tim Howard makes, a record, a U.S. record, and even, I think, a World Cup record amount of saves, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what this game was in a lot of ways. It wasn't like the U.S. was really going punch for punch with France. They countered really well once and took their chance in a sublime fashion with a really great finish by Julian Green. But other than that, I mean, France is dominating possession. But what the U.S. did do well, the really huge positive, was, man, did they defend fantastically as a team. Minnesota United should watch that game once a day for the rest of the MLS season, because their team defending against France was phenomenal.
And shout out also, we talk about the tradition of the United States having pretty gosh darn good goalkeepers. Zach Steffen looks like he might be the next big thing.
Yeah, he might be.
The double save he made right at the end of regulation against 2 shots in the box was world-class quality.
Yeah, and I saw some people, I haven't been able to see Steffen play ever before this. I know he plays for Columbus.
Yep.
Soon to be Austin.
Well, and I saw a rumor around that if Columbus moves to Austin, Steffen will probably move to Europe.
Interesting. But yeah, people I respect on Twitter had soccer experts that I respect had said that Steffen, a lot of people think Steffen is possibly, like you said, the next big thing or a really quality talent. So that's cool. Because I think especially cool because Brad Guzan's kind of been on the downslope.
Yep, and it's good to see like the next generation after the Howard, Guzan, Friedel trio who are all aging out of contention. There's going to be somebody come next, and Stefan looks like a real strong contender for being the guy rather than like Bill Hamid of DC United is another name that's around. Yeah. But Stefan's got the thing. So that's the United States men's national team. They're still playing games, but they're helping everybody else warm up. So start with Group A, which is the hosts group, the Russian national team, along with Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Uruguay. What strikes your fancy about this group, Nick?
I think that it's just such a wide open group. There's not like I think anyone really could come out of it. I think it'll be Uruguay because they're the most talented team of the group, and the second team will be Russia because they're obviously the host nation, and like just not year after year, but World Cup after World Cup, major tournament after major tournament, host countries always punch above their weight. So I would be shocked if Russia and Uruguay don't come out of that group.
So that being said, there's an obvious conversation topic with Egypt in that their biggest star player, we've talked about his injury in the Champions League final before, Mohamed Salah is reportedly right on the brink of being fit for Egypt's opening games. Now, whether or not Egypt have enough talent around him to get results in this group, I think is up for debate. I don't think the Russian national team is that good. So if I were picking the group, I would definitely have Uruguay first, but I think I would take Egypt to go second over Russia.
I think that's a fine pick, and it's possible. Egypt's definitely the other team that could make it out of this group.
And the Saudi, we're not talking much about the Saudi Arabian team. They're, I believe, one of the lowest rated teams at the World Cup. They have a squad of 23 players who play only in the Saudi Arabian National League, and
which Tom also used to play in.
It was a great league, though. Really good to me.
It's not that they can't come in and pull an upset, and they've got a lot of guys who probably know each other really well, have played together before, but they are the underdogs of this group pretty decidedly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that said, like Russia and Egypt will be an interesting battle. The Uruguay national team is a fun one to watch. You've got great players on that team like Edinson Cavani, Luis Suarez up front. You've got Gaston Silva, Sebastian Coates in the back line, Fernando Muslera playing for Galatasaray now, but who's been a good keeper who's been around before. The Uruguayan team's got recognition.
They just don't have any center mids. I don't know. Nope. I don't know why they can't make any of those.
Because they've got great forwards.
And great defenders. They have Diego Godin and Jimenez from Atletico Madrid. Like, those are world-class center backs and world-class strikers. If they could just have a few center mids, man.
They've just got to get the middle sorted out. So if you're kidding Uruguay, figure out how to play the midfield. You're good.
Seriously.
So that's Group A. In Group B, we have your traditional contest of the Iberian Peninsula with Portugal and Spain.
That's so fun that those two are in the same group.
Morocco and Iran, who I think the picks for this group are pretty obvious in terms of who you think are going to go through. Because just like the Portuguese national team has never reached the top level that you think they should, but they also have one of the two best players on this planet.
Well, I mean, I gotta. Well, but let's check that.
Do we want to disagree with Cristiano Ronaldo being one of the two best players on the planet?
No. Well, let's disagree with Portugal not reaching the heights.
Really?
That they should. Well, who won Euro 2016?
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Shut up. Shut up.
I wish people could have seen his expression on his face.
Who won the last major tournament?
Sorry, I'm repeating storylines from before Euro 2016.
Yep.
My bad.
Yep.
Literally, the piece I'm reading is the European champions are no longer underdogs after the triumph in France. Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to eat that.
Yeah. I didn't know the best way to break that to you.
Yep. Thanks for that. No,
you give you a soft.
You did it with class.
Okay.
First time Nick's done something like that. Big moment on the podcast.
I'm very proud of you not just dunking on me relentlessly right there, because you could have.
If it was Tom or Laura, I would have dunked.
Anyway, okay.
I'd be bad.
Anyway, who wins the group, Portugal or Spain?
I think Spain, man. I think they're going to be really good. But I think this Portugal team is like they're coming off of winning Euro 2016, and I think they are more the buttress, the foundation around Ronaldo in the Portugal national team is better than it's been in a while. So these two are going through, and it's not even close. And I mean, honestly, that's the race: is who's going to finish first. And I don't know; it really could be either. But I'm going Spain.
Who do you think Sergio Ramos is going to injure in the group stage?
No one in the group stage, but in the round of 16 in the quarterfinals, he'll elbow
someone. He'll elbow someone.
Here's the over/under. Who's gonna injure more people, Diego Costa or Sergio Ramos?
The Spanish national team, always noted in history for their classy, smooth passing and for their beautiful work, but yet they've got these two crazy dudes.
Those two dudes are gonna undercut a lot of years of like elegance and finesse.
Well, and respect goes out to possibly the last World Cups for Andres Iniesta and David Silva in the Spanish midfield, two legends of the game, world champions in club play, in national team play.
Absolutely.
This is probably their last shot. Iniesta's 34, Silva's 32.
I mean, it's just kind of funny because, even if those two got injured tomorrow, they're still, really fine.
Yeah.
They have so much depth in that position. It's insane.
And a key for Spain may be that they possibly have the best goalkeeper in the tournament, if not the world, in David De Gea.
Yes, exactly. I just had a great idea. Think about how Klinsmann was grabbing those guys with dual passports, those German guys with dual passports, Jermaine Jones, other guys of the like, all those other Timmy Chandler, da-da-da-da-da. We should try to grab a few Spain guys because they have so much. They would be easily convinced if they were just one tier below David Silva, Thiago Alcantara, Cesc Fabregas. If you grab any guy below those tiers, they'll never play for the national team, and they would be stunning if they had American grandparents. Oh man. All right, I got to go. I'm going to get started on this. I got to leave the show.
This is the future of the United States national team. Nic Hallett digging through Ancestry.com. Anyway, Group C, home of the team that couldn't beat the United States national team, France, along with Australia, Peru, and Denmark. Nick, who do you favor to go through this group?
France is going to take first. And actually, there's been a ton of the warm-up games for all these countries, and Peru has shown out offensively and just shown to be fighters. So I'm going Peru.
I will be somewhat of a homer and take Denmark to go second.
Do you want me to just say it for you next time? Because I knew exactly what you're going to say.
Christian Eriksen's great. He's very good.
Yeah.
At things.
He's the best player in that group, not on France. So
that's true. And France has themselves a squad. This is France has had some tournaments where they've walked in with a squad and embarrassed themselves. This would be another level of embarrassment if they failed to go through. The forward lineup that they are bringing to this tournament: Antoine Griezmann, Olivier Giroud, Kylian Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele, Nabil Fekir, and Florian Thauvin. All six of those dudes play really, really, really good football at all times.
Tauvin's not even going to play. That's the thing.
Yeah, Giroud, you might think Giroud is one of. He's maybe slipped from the peak levels that he was at in the Premier League, but he always shows out for France.
He does. He has a great scoring record with France. Actually, you know what? I think that U.S. draw could actually. They were already going to go in, and they're one of the favorites to win this. I think that U.S. draw is actually maybe the perfect way to go in because now they're going to be their heads are going to be on fire. You know what I mean? They're going to be going in guns blazing because of that. So I think that actually will work out for them.
Yep, and I'm interested. I think the France story is interesting because if they do well, this team could go all the way to the final and win this tournament.
Absolutely.
If they flame out in the tournament, if they flame out either, probably not in group stages, but if they flame out early in the round of 16 and the round of 8, I think Didier Deschamps could find his job untenable with a certain French national team legend recently having left his job.
Deschamps is gone, even maybe if they win it, because he's had it for a while, and
Zidane's right
ideal
there.
replacement.
And it's basically like anointed for him.
Yeah.
Which
it really is.
Yep. And as usual, we don't talk enough about the last place team in the group assumed, but shout out to Australia. They've got some fun players. I really enjoyed watching Aaron Moy play for Huddersfield this year in the Premier League. He scored some fun goals and was a big part of their team doing as well as they did this season. And they've got some historical guys who are probably playing their last World Cup in Tim Cahill at a ripe age of 38.
Jeez.
Who will probably play some decent minutes for them in this World Cup.
Jeez.
They're probably not going to do very well.
I would think not, but they have punched above their weight at different times.
And part of the thing for the Australian team is qualifying from their qualifying region, because Oceania qualifies separate from everywhere else. They just don't play teams of the highest caliber at the same rate as teams in Europe do.
They walk to every World Cup.
And it's just like there's very few ways around that without them playing meaningful friendlies as often as they can, and that just doesn't work for international teams. Whereas like going through a European or a South American qualifying campaign like France, Denmark, and Peru did, it's just a different level of play. And so partially it's not their fault, but they're going to need to kind of pull a miracle out of their hats to get through that. Yeah. All right, Group D, featuring one of the other best players in the world on the Argentinian national team in the form of Lionel Messi, along with the heroes of Euro 2016 in Iceland, and Croatia and Nigeria. Nick, who do you have coming out of Group D?
I'm going to go Argentina's the obvious. I'm going to go with Croatia as the other team. I mean, they have the quality that the other teams do not. I would say it's Nigeria, and who else is the other one?
Iceland.
Yeah, Iceland's not making it out. They caught a lot of people off guard at Euro 2016.
Namely England.
Yeah, seriously. Wow, what a game. That was fascinating. That won't happen again, and they're going to be taken out. Nigeria's got a chance. They're a wild card, just like Senegal is. So one of those teams is going to perform well. I don't know which one, but one of those teams is going to do well. I would think, even though historically African teams are bad at the World Cup.
Other than Ghana.
But even them, like the furthest they've ever gotten is like the round of 16. Or the quarters, actually. Sorry, the quarters.
Yeah, after they beat the United States. Yeah.
But African teams no African teams ever made the semis, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think that's right. And
but that's off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. So, second. Who did I have second? Coming out second in that group?
You had
Croatia.
Modric, which I think I agree with. Luka Modric is very good. Croatia seems to print out midfielders on a 3D printer, whatever. Like, you've got Modric, Rakitic, Kovacic, Perisic. These are all dudes playing high-level soccer in Spain and in Italy, in Perisic's case, for Inter.
Yes. And Brozovic.
Yep, Brozovic, too.
And Mandzukic. So, I mean, they have everything you need, and then defensively they're not as high quality, but they're fine.
Dejan Lovren's pretty good.
Exactly.
He's a name I've heard of.
Yeah, exactly. Lovren will be back there. He's the only guy on the team that doesn't end in itch. But
veteran Chorluka.
That was more of a joke.
I'm still going to correct your joke because it's close. It's close. There's like 4 dudes who don't end in itch.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think the Croatian team has more than enough quality to go through. I'm interested to see how Nigeria look in attack, just because they've got some pretty decent Premier League experience up front, and Kelechi Iheanacho, Alex Iwobi, and Victor Moses.
Yeah.
They've got some dudes who can bag some goals at the highest level.
Absolutely.
But you wonder about consistency through the entire squad.
And they're just very young, and they don't have. I mean, John Obi Mikel provides experience, but it's hard to picture that group necessarily being able to come together.
Yep, they're one that if you were picking a club to upset and maybe pop out of the group stage that you might not expect, Nigeria is one to keep your eye on. Maybe.
Yeah,
I'd be interested in them.
Yes, very possible.
Group E.
Oh, I'll just say lastly too, Nigeria has has this weird fact where they've won like multiple youth World Cups, so they have like a good system to a degree. But yeah, they've struggled to replicate it on the senior level. So again, more reason to watch Nigeria.
Group E, which features Yoga Benito and the Brazilian national team, along with Switzerland, Francisco Calvo's Costa Rica, and Serbia. Nick, who do you have coming out of Group E?
Give him to me one more time, rapid fire.
Brazil, Costa Rica, Switzerland, and Serbia.
And a few groups are like this because a lot of big teams missed out. The Netherlands, Italy, Chile, where there's just one team that's going to have the hegemony of that group, and it's just not close. So that's obvious when it comes to Brazil. I'd say I like a lot of the guys on the Serbian team, but man, Costa Rica had a stunning 2014 World Cup, which Calvo was a part of. So it's hard not to back their belief. I think that's going to be an absolute fist fight for the second place out of that.
And Costa Rica is an interesting one to watch from an American perspective because so many of their big players play in MLS, right? You have Kendall Waston for Vancouver. You have a bunch of dudes whose names David Guzman for Portland, Marco Orena for Los Angeles FC.
And a lot of people don't forget Johan Venegas
playing for Saprissa.
Technically is a Minnesota United player. And he will likely start.
Yep, and look pretty good in their warm-up games.
Calvo won't necessarily. So from a Minnesota United perspective, obviously Calvo's the key man, but don't sleep on Johan.
And the thing with Costa Rica, like I've touched on goalkeeping a little bit moving through these groups because it's a thing that can make or break a game. We talked about the United States result with Tim Howard going out of his mind against Belgium 4 years ago. One team at this tournament has the goalkeeper who just won the Champions League final.
Yeah.
And it is Costa Rica with Keylor Navas.
Yeah.
And that can swing some things for you in a pinch.
Absolutely.
So I think Costa Rica to come second in this group would be an excellent choice.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's a good X factor. Like I said, the other one is this is the nucleus of the group that went super far in 2014. So that belief, having that, knowing that they can do it, like, invaluable.
And this is a group where you could see any of Serbia, Switzerland, and Costa Rica going through second, I think. Like, they've all got enough talent in enough places that you could see results going one way or another depending on who's on form for the tournament and who's not, in my opinion. It's just one of those things that I think the second three in that group are close enough, but I do agree that Brazil are far and away the top of this group. Group F, as I scroll back to the top of the page. Group F have the world champions in Germany, along with Mexico, Sweden, and South Korea. Nic Hallett, who do you have coming out of Group F?
Like I said before, same group makeup, obvious dominant force in the Germans.
Do you believe in the Mexican national team, Nick?
I want to. Here's the question, because predictions are predictions. Should U.S. national team fans, should Americans be rooting for Mexico? And where do you stand on that? Because I'm rooting for them, personally. I want them to do well. And a lot of people usually stand by the fact that you should root for CONCACAF teams because it bodes well for the U.S. In certain ways. But just, generally, I'm rooting for Mexico to do well.
I think they're a really fun team, and I think that this could be a chance for maybe their best performance yet.
It's possible.
They've reached the last 16 in each of the past 6 World Cups. Maybe this is the time they break into the last 8. That obviously depends a lot on matchups in the quarterfinals, but they've got the talent, and they've got a team that's played together for a long time at this point and got a lot of pieces that work well together.
Yes, and in some ways they have like a bit of a golden generation because they have the Dos Santos brothers, they have Chicharito and Carlos Vela, they have one of their best prospects is like at a really good place in his career in Lozano. They have a good amount of experience on the back line. They have Hector Herrera and Guardado in the midfield, which brings honestly the ideal amount of experience to this type of situation. Yeah, I mean the World Cup is the World Cup and anything can happen, but you'd like to think that they're well poised, and so yeah, I hope they're doing well.
Yep, I think I believe in them more than either Sweden or South Korea. The Swedish team is as opposed to the last few tournaments without Zlatan Ibrahimovic, which whether or not you believe in Zlatan at the national team level, not having a player of his caliber is a drop in quality for the Swedish national team. And the South Korean team, they've got players. Like, my obvious bias for them is towards their attacking player, Heung-min Son, who was very, very good for Tottenham Hotspur this year.
If unchecked, would this podcast turn into you waxing about all the Tottenham players?
We haven't gotten to
the World Cup.
We haven't gotten to England yet. Just you wait. But the question with South Korea is depth of squad.
Absolutely.
As with any of these, you see a lot of these teams that have one player, two players who are in the Premier League, in the Bundesliga, in the Spanish league. Not the whole squad of 23. And South Korea is one of those, you've got Son, who might be the best player on their team, is probably the best player on their team, but the depth below him might not be there. And so it's just whether or not that's enough to compete with a team like even the Mexican team, many of whom are playing in the Mexican league, but the Mexican league is a high-quality league. Maybe not on the level of the European leagues, but you get your work in that league.
Well, but again, Mexico's best players play. Am I cutting out again?
Yeah.
I think this cord is broken. I think that's what it is.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think it's related to me moving.
Huh.
Maybe
stay still. Let's finish this.
Right.
We're almost done.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Mexico's got guys that are in
Stay still.
Mexico's got guys that are in Europe's top league, and so they have big upside. Carlos Vela's played at Arsenal at times of his career. Chicharito's played for Manchester United. Guardado, Lozano played for PSV. Herrera for Porto in the Champions League numerous times. So that's a team that, again, more reasons that they're well positioned to do something. Here's the way I'll leave it on that group is the really interesting game is Mexico-Germany, and it's a test of how can Mexico handle a type of team that they would face in the knockout stages. So that game will be really interesting.
And we're going to know what happened in that game when we record next, because that game is on Sunday.
Fantastic.
And
that'll be a fun
I'm looking
game.
forward to that almost more than any other game in the group stage, with Portugal-Spain as an obvious other candidate to that from the teams we've gone through so far. So I will go with Germany, then Mexico first and second in that group as well. I think I want to see how far Mexico can go. I'm interested in this team, and I think they're as close to the home team as you're going to get in this tournament.
Seriously.
And that's what Fox Sports 1's angle on this has been, is they're pushing L3 hard.
As they should, and they don't have another option. But how funny and how just ironic is it that Donald Trump is talking crap about Mexico all the time on Fox News, and then Fox Sports has the World Cup rights, spends big, and then the U.S. totally shits the bed. Pardon my language.
Deserved.
And now Fox Sports has to lean on Mexico.
Now, I've heard they're very different entities, but it is kind of funny.
That's funny.
Yeah,
though.
it is funny.
That's funny.
The irony of the names on them is more than any backroom politics can deal with. Anyway, after the positive hopes of Mexico, let's go to Group G, also known as How Can England Screw This Up This Time?
Nice.
Group G is Belgium, Panama, Tunisia, and England.
Man, you know what's fun about this?
How can England screw this up this time?
Yeah, that's what's so fun about that is I'm rooting for England, but oh my goodness, is the world going to come crumbling down if they don't get out of this group? Because Panama and Tunisia are arguably the two weakest teams in the entire tournament. And so if they can't get out of the group and those guys hold them back, wow, is that just going to – it's going to be entertaining either way.
Because it's this – I think this is England's best team that they've had in a long time. And a
lot of people disagree with that. A lot of people don't feel that way. Some people feel like it's maybe the best unit because they're like more a team.
Team.
Best. Yeah.
Team.
Define team and yeah.
Not best players, best team.
Yeah.
Partially because they all played for Tottenham Hotspur.
Okay. There it is. There it was.
You were waiting for it.
Yep. 4 out of 23 isn't most, but I've heard 3 out of 50 is a good time to go for everything.
It's 5 actually.
Is it 5?
It's 5.
Who am I forgetting?
Kane.
Or maybe we've talked
Ollie,
about starters before.
Dyer, Trippier, Rose. And
Nice.
if we're talking about former Tottenham, Kyle Walker also counts. But I don't know. Like, I feel good about this England team, and I'm not English, so I can say that without crushing defeat internalized in it.
Yeah.
And if I were going to place a bet on not one of the big 4 or 5 teams to win this, I think the England team would be an interesting one to bet on to win the whole tournament.
Yeah.
They've got the top side, I think. Like,
I would not. So that's how I used to feel when I first started watching soccer. And I would watch the English national team in all these tournaments, and I feel like, dude, they're so talented. All these guys play in the Prem, like they're starters in the Prem. Prem's the best league. Like England could win any major tournament. And then I've watched England play in major tournaments,
and
I wouldn't. If I had
maybe
to put
this one's different.
If I've had to put money on them, I never would, based on what I've seen. I mean, I've seen teams with Rooney in his prime, with Beckham. Like I've seen those teams do nothing. So, I've seen those England teams look like Minnesota United playing FC Cincinnati midweek. So, I don't trust them as far as I can throw them.
I'm taking them as maybe this is their year.
I don't know how they don't get out of that group, though.
Yeah, that's
Belgium and
we're
them.
talking just groups. Belgium and them should be far out of the group, and I think Belgium-England will be a very interesting.
That'll be a fun game.
And that's the last game of the group stage.
That's basically a Premier League All-Star game because every starter in that team essentially has played in the Prem or is a Prem player almost on both teams.
Yeah,
so
Belgium's another one. If you want to take like a slightly darker horse to win the tournament, they've got the squad.
Yeah,
but they've never done it on the biggest stage.
I'd more readily put my money on Belgium winning it.
That's fair. I'm going to believe in England, and it's going to punish me.
I'll be here.
I know that. I know that's how it's going to work because I've heard the English national team fans are a lot like Minnesota sports fans.
Yes.
From what I've learned about English national team fans.
So if you're not rooting for Mexico and you want a home team,
England will give you the experience. I think I've said that before.
England gives you the Minnesota experience. So if you want some of that. So actually, given that, then what's going to happen is England's going to make it to the semis and then lose on like a last minute goal like that they really shouldn't have allowed, and they'll be like super dramatic.
You mean a Sergio Ramos header?
Yeah.
The grand tradition of Sergio Ramos scoring stupid goals late in games.
Yeah. It's that. Or like the equivalent of a Blair Walsh like missed field goal from 15 yards away. I don't know what that would be. So like missing. So what? Yeah, they'll get to the semis and like miss a penalty late or something.
Or it's something like that. Yeah. And then we have Group H, which might be the least interesting group in the entire tournament.
Oh wow.
Poland, Senegal, Colombia, and Japan.
Yeah, that's.
Who you feeling?
Colombia.
I think Colombia
sure
wins the group comfortably.
Yeah, well, who knows? But yes, they should. They're the most talented team there. Japan and Senegal and who else?
Colombia has Davinson Sanchez, who plays for a great team.
Yeah. Here we go.
Wow.
This
I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep doing this.
This is a time to say that Manchester United has 6 former youth players that are playing in the World Cup, and that's the most of any English club.
That's fair.
So
see, you get your shots in too. Like, I'm not preventing you from doing this. You're just choosing not to.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So Poland, Senegal, and Japan are the other 3 teams in this group.
Man, it's who the frick knows? Who knows?
Poland has a guy up front that's pretty good.
Yeah, but can anyone get it to him? Yeah, I think Poland's actually Poland usually does fare pretty well. I'd say it's between Poland and Senegal. I don't think Japan's great. I think it's between those two. Senegal has a lot of good players in a lot of just a solid team. A lot of Premier League guys on that team, so they could definitely do well. And yeah, Poland's played well in major tournaments. but their upside's super limited. They'll definitely get knocked out
All right,
later on.
Pick your poison. You taking Columbia first, and
I'll take Poland. I think Senegal mess it up for some reason. I'm taking Senegal. Sadio Mane is going to be a beast.
All right. I will take Japan second.
Oh, okay. What I would say, because we're done with all the groups, right? We've done all the groups.
Yep.
What I would say, as much as we're in here, predicting, there's going to be one or two upsets that we don't know yet, and then they will happen. So I don't know where those will be, and it'll be fascinating because it always is.
So I will take Japan. Shinji Kagawa is a very, 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 very good soccer player. Shinji Okazaki is a goal scorer who I very much enjoy watching. And while the Japanese national team may have some depth questions, slightly more than other teams, with pieces of their team playing in the Japanese league, which the J League is not noted as a great national league, hasn't gone out of their way to buy immense talent like the Chinese league has tried to do, even if it's on the reverse side of the age chasm. They've got players right now that are among top 10, top 20 in the world at their positions and can go out and shock some things.
I got to disagree with that statement. Who is top 20 at their position out of any of their guys?
I think Kagawa is in the conversation.
I don't think so. Kagawa doesn't really even play for Dortmund. So
I guess I haven't watched enough Dortmund this year then.
Yeah, he was, maybe a few years ago, but...
Dude's 29. He should be in his prime. It feels like he should be better than this.
Yeah, he's just kind of trailed off. Kazuki Honda used to be really a high, echelon player, but I don't even know. Is he even in the team?
He plays in the Mexican League and is in the team.
So, Honda's one of their best players. And Okazaki, he's nowhere near...
He's nowhere near that. Yeah. Fine. Maybe one.
So...
Hater.
I'm just trying to be real.
You're
trying to keep it real.
You're keeping it real.
Keeping it 100.
Ugh. Millennials.
100
Gross.
emoji.
Okay, who wins tournament?
Belgium. Yeah.
All right. Good. Take your shot, Tom.
I'm taking my shot.
All right, Tom. Why does Belgium win the tournament? Name one player on the Belgian national team.
Because the hipsters want it.
That's fair. That's true.
Winner.
Name one player on the Belgian national team, Tom.
Waffles. It was Tim's friend.
Good try.
I think it's... I don't want to because it's like what a lot of people are saying, but I think it's going to be... Brazil or Germany. I think Diego Costa honestly might get in the way of Spain winning it, but they'd be in my top 3. Spain would be my third favorite. But man, Neymar is going to be so fresh because he seems healthy in the warm-up games he's played. He's going to be so fresh and he's going to be firing, and they're so deep around him. And then the Germans are the defending champs, and they just always have the best mentality when it comes to competition. So. Yeah, I think I could definitely see a Germany-Brazil final. I would say Argentina would be my 4th. What I would tell you is you'll have a real good prediction from Mr. Hallett after the group stage.
Yeah, and I know we'll revisit this after the group stage for sure.
Yeah,
because this is the before we've seen any real tournament games, and you can take whatever you want to take from the lead-up friendlies. I'll take Brazil to win the tournament, which feels like it's always at least a safe bet going into a tournament, pretty much no matter what kind of shape the squad's in. And I think they're in a good place this year. There are always going to be memories of 7-1. I remember exactly where I was 4 years ago when I watched that game.
That game was crazy.
7-1 loss.
I couldn't believe
I was getting an oil change during that game.
What? Wait, really?
It's dead serious. I was sitting at the car dealership in the lounge watching goal after goal after goal after goal go in. Like, what is happening?
That game was
It made no
stunning.
sense.
That
Like,
game was
regardless
stunning.
of how good Germany was, it made no sense.
No one knew what was happening.
So, like,
literally,
those memories are always going to be there for Brazil. For the players that were in that squad, you can't get rid of that.
Literally, like,
winning this tournament's but the closest you're going to get.
The fourth and fifth goal, if you watch the highlights, the German guys, like, after they scored, they themselves are like, what just happened? Like, their faces were like, what's happening?
And the Brazil, I know they played their last friendly going into this game against Austria and comfortably won, and Neymar looks like he's in very good form going into the World Cup, which is probably a good sign for them.
I think that's the main reason they win, is he's fresh. He's been in good form prior to this. He's looked good in the warm-up games, and they're deeper around him than they've ever been. They didn't have Coutinho last time. They didn't have Jesus and Firmino playing the number 9 position. Like, they're set up so well. Douglas Costa and Willian are coming off the bench. Like, they're in a really good place around him. Casemiro, Fernandinho, Paulinho are all, like, in really good form and ready to support that attack. Like, they're gonna be awesome.
You know who Tom's favorite player in the Brazilian national team is?
Fred.
It's Fred.
Yeah.
Or Allison. Do you like Allison?
Yeah.
There, we've gotten Tom Schreier's contribution to the podcast. This has been Soccer with Tom Schreier.
Not great.
Not great, Bob.
Hey.
Not great, Fred.
Respect Tom. He used to play in the Saudi Arabia League.
All right. We made it. We made it through 32 teams. We've talked about them. I've made at least 2 horrendous mistakes, but you'll have that.
We have it recorded.
We have it recorded. It's going to be published on the air, and I'm going to get crap about it on Twitter tomorrow, and it's going to be great because it means we know you guys are listening to our podcast. Yeah! Which is the goal, is getting those clicks, getting those listens. So we will be back next week. The group stage will have started. I'm not sure if it's even through the first set of games, but it's going to be through a large chunk of them. I think the games start on Thursday of this week. And Minnesota United will play 2 games next week, one on Monday, one on Saturday. We will also preview those for you, along with a trip through World Cup results. If anything surprising happens, or if it all goes exactly as we would expect, we will have it all for you next Sunday. You'll have it on Monday morning. You'll have this on Monday morning. Or if you're up at 10:30 at night on a Sunday night, like you shouldn't be, go to sleep.
Yeah.
Tom needs to go to bed, so we're gonna.
That's a yes.
We're gonna wrap this up. Tom Schreier's at T Schreier 3. Tell him to go to sleep when you listen to this. Nic Hallett, Prince Hallett, me, Prof. Cedar. We'll talk to you guys next week. This has been the Minnesota Soccer Podcast. Goodbye.